The Just Us Group is the judicial network that enables and benefits themselves and where the litigants are at the mercy of that system. This is attorney Susan Settenbrino's decry. The system sets us up for failure. She's a practicing attorney for 20 years, has plenty of experience in family law, fraud, business law, constitutional law, and an author, and is a strong advocate for legal and judicial reform. I met Susan recently at a Divorce Corp conference in Washington, D.C., and here she is.
Here I am.
There you go.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
And thanks for the great work that you do.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you, yes. We had a lot of fun talking.
And it was a great conference.
Divorce Corp.
He's amazing. Amazing, Joe Sorge. He's done more than most people.
Fabulous, I know. Your book is good, and I have to get through the whole thing. And I will, thank you.
You got to get past page 5, yes.
No, I'm past page 5, thank you.
Okay.
So what is it that, Just Us, I would like you to go through how you would describe this rather than just use how I described it. Just Us, not justice. What does it mean to you?
That's what it means to me and what it means to the public. Really, there was, the population has lost confidence in the court system. And the minority population in particular, and because what we have is we have a system where there's no checks and balances, there's no oversight, there's no accountability. What I mean by that is that we're supposed to have 3 branches of government, where we have the judicial, the executive branch, and the legislative branch, and they're supposed to be separate, and they're supposed to operate as checks upon each other's power. But unfortunately, because they're all part of the political machine where they all have to get elected, they have to raise substantial funds from the businesses, from the attorneys, and they all have to get elected by this political machine. Their careers are dependent, and they're interdependent. And so we have no separation of power and no accountability.
So the politics is an issue, and
yes, the way we choose our judges, we either choose our judges through an electoral process, but we all know that the election is just a mere formality for the most part, because the judges are chosen by the party bosses and at the nomination stage. And so what happens is, politically they're selected and they're put on the bench, and the people aren't really selecting the judges through the election process, or they're chosen by a governor. The governor will put a judge on the bench, and from the lower offices or to the top offices.
And they also run unopposed.
But the attorneys and the businessmen, they raise money for these governors. And then the governors put the judges on the bench. And then when the judges misbehave or engage in misconduct, the governors are not there. They're not responsible. They're not held accountable. And there's nothing you can do, because now you're within a system. And I showed this in my presentation. I can point it out here because I have a copy of my slides.
He'll get that for you, by the way, because you mentioned it.
Yeah. But you're within a system where there's nowhere to go. It's incredible, because you have the chief judge who's placed there by the governor. Now, he may never have worked really as an attorney in private practice. He may hardly have been a judge. But politically, he can be placed as a chief judge. And then the judges beneath him can be all politically placed.
So you're talking there's no real expectation of quality in terms of judging?
Well, that's a separate issue. Number one is, if you're only getting judges who the politicians are appointing or who the party bosses are nominating, then what type of selection are you getting? You're getting people who are amenable to politics, and you're not getting a diversity with the type of judges that you're getting. You're not getting great scholars necessarily, or you're not getting diverse population.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. That's how it works politically.
But it's very important to know that once you're within the system, there's no oversight. So when a judge misbehaves, there's nowhere to go to.
We heard that there's only about a 1% overturn ratio in terms of turning a judge in for the Office of Court Administration. There's a very small rate.
You mean with the Commission on Judicial Conduct?
No, on the judges, the Office of Court Administration.
Yes.
It's less than 1%, is that right? It's less than 1% overturn, I think. And the Center for Judicial Accountability is for the lawyers, right? Did I get that right? The protesting group, the place where you go to complain?
Wait, there's the disciplinary committee, right?
Yeah.
Which is also within the court system, and they can be run politically. Within this system, because there's no accountability and there's no oversight, and because it's politicized, this system can be run in a criminal manner, and there's nothing you could do about it. So if you go complain against, for instance, if it's run in a political manner, all they have to do is put somebody political in the disciplinary committee. So you want to complain against an attorney, right? And you go to the disciplinary committee. They can be protected by the people running the disciplinary committee. The same token, the disciplinary committee can go and target an attorney who tries to fight for justice for their client. They can make fraudulent investigations that can continue without any basis whatsoever, and they can ruin an attorney's entire career without ever having any reason. But since there's no, now that's a criminal behavior, correct? And there's evidence that this happens. But because there's no oversight or accountability, you can't go. Who are you going to go to? The DA won't do anything. He's part of the same political machine. The Attorney General won't do anything. The mayor won't do anything. The governor won't do anything. Who will you go to when this political...
There is no place to go.
There's no place to go.
Right.
So, and the same thing with the Commission on Judicial Conduct. Now, the Commission on Judicial Conduct is also, you can place a political person in charge of the Commission on Judicial Conduct. And in my book, I also address these two agencies. The Commission on Judicial Conduct, that's the place that's supposed to police judges. When a judge misbehaves, you're supposed to be able to go to this place. Now, first of all...
What's the title of your book again, by the way?
Unchecked Power.
Okay.
The Unchecked Power Guide. The two most important offices is the Disciplinary Committee and the Commission on Judicial Conduct. Why? Because they are the pillar of ethics. So if you have an attorney who's misbehaving in court, or a judge who's misbehaving in court, or even acting criminally, you need to be able to go to the Attorney Disciplinary Committee, and you need to be able to go, it's very important, let me finish this concept, to the Judicial Commission office, the Commission on Judicial Conduct. The laws are there. But if you have people running those offices that are political, what's going to happen is they're going to protect the misconduct. So if there's even a criminal enterprise happening in the court system, by the Commission on Judicial Conduct protecting the judge, and by the Disciplinary Committee protecting the attorneys, then you can promote criminal activity in the courthouse. You can promote an entire enterprise to continue. And go by the board and
no one will ever notice.
Exactly. And if these offices are run politically, and there is overwhelming evidence that they are, and people have came forward to testify about this, then they can target judges who don't play along, or attorneys who don't play along, and they can silence them, and thereby enabling even criminal activity if it were occurring in the court system. That's how dangerous it is.
Yeah, that sounds very dangerous.
If they were operating honestly, they could stop it. So if you're going before a judge who's engaging in misconduct, and there's a whole, and I have the rules of the judicial conduct in my book, and if they would be enforced, a lot of people would be saved from. Can
anybody expect to get any of those things you just talked about that are in your book to help themselves? Can anybody expect that, or is this closed system so closed that that's just a way to do it that's not available to them?
Well, let's just, we're in a very enclosed system that it's impenetrable, power, it's impenetrable power, because there's no oversight and accountability. But within this same system, you still have to know. Knowledge is power. Right. And the most important thing you can do when you're going through the system is to keep your story straight. Do not allow them to take your story from you. So if you come in and you have the facts, and they want to rewrite the facts, and they want to say this never happened or that never happened, and you always have to keep your story straight, because the most important thing that an attorney can do and a litigant can do is to make sure that their record is honest as possible and not
We have
muddied.
that problem. Most of the cases that I look at are family court cases, and we can see that you're right, that's not what happens. We have people with very clear stories, very clear medications, for instance, like in the prior show we just did, and things that really can be tied into cause and effect, and they never get ruled upon, they never get put in as evidence that works. Nothing ever happens to it.
Right.
Say in the same fashion.
Because anything is possible within a politicized court system with no accountability and no oversight. Okay, so
I want to talk to you
that's the
about the
problem.
false orders, which is a major part of what your book had. And
Yes.
I wrote down something here. What kind of judiciary system has the society produced where judges can misstate the facts of a case and then proceed to apply the law to those fictitious facts? Basically, that's kind of like...
That was a quote from Professor D'Amato, I believe.
Right, D'Amato, right.
Yes, he's a professor, and that's the truth. If one of the biggest problems, and judges are not even held accountable for this, is when they misstate the facts of the case and the law.
Yeah, our audience is going to be interested in this, so if
Yes.
you don't mind expanding this a little bit, because they're mostly family court cases, mostly. False orders can protect the criminals.
Yes. If so, basically, listen. You have to look at an order. What is an order? An order is a piece of paper, and it's a blank canvas. And if you have a judge, say, and the judge happens to have an agenda for whatever reason, or is mistaken, or however you want to see, the judge is not acting appropriately, and has this order, the judge, once he fills out the order, or has somebody fill out the order and he signs it, if that order says events that happen, that you know happened, never happened, they never happened. If that order says you are a criminal, and even though you're a law-abiding citizen, you are a criminal. If that order says that your money should be taken away and given to, you know, someone else, even though that it could be extortion if one were to look at that closer, that is what has to happen.
This is a new fact, I guess.
The order becomes life itself. A false order can even put people in jail, can take away their money, can destroy people's lives. And there's evidence that it does.
We've seen fake domestic violence and abuse situations that are not really, no one's able to say that it actually happened, but yet that person loses custody because of this false allegation of abuse. This is our area.
Well,
divorce,
obviously,
that happens quite a bit.
If the court says, and I've seen false orders, if the court says that, you know, somebody is what they're not, that they are somebody who needs supervision and they don't, then that person will walk around with a cloud around them and they will be denied access to their child because that order says that that's what has to be done, even though there may be no evidence to support that whatsoever.
Yeah. Would you say that this system kind of generated itself because there was no oversight? There is no oversight? This false imagery about the legal system and this closed system and all these things that are not being dealt with, would you say that?
Well, go give people amenable to politicians who owe their careers to politicians and to businesses and attorneys, put them on the bench, give them inordinate power with no oversight and accountability.
Did we give them inordinate power? Okay.
You tell me what happens. Take even a good person.
Right, I got it. Yeah.
Right? So that's what happens.
No, but I didn't give them any power. I mean, by not doing anything about it, I gave them power? The absence of an attack of some kind?
We are giving, as long as we continue to put political judges on the bench, either through the appointment process or through the electoral process, and as long as we allow them not to have oversight or accountability, as long as we enable this type of system, how do you see it getting better?
No, I don't. I was wondering. I'm looking for hope.
Well, if you have a liver and you put it into a decaying body, can the decaying body ever? If you have a healthy liver and the body is not receptive to this liver,
it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. So if you have more laws and you have more advocacy and more legislation, but you have a system that's set up to fail, how are you going to improve it? We have to stop. We have to completely change and reform how we choose our judges.
The What We Know page, because I have that here too. Right. You have that section in your book. You're saying to stop judicial appointments and elections, which is what you just said. The judicial ethics committees are ineffective, you're stating, and we can't do anything about that either?
For the most part, they're ineffective. Yes, we can do. We can address this because there are rules, and they have to enforce it. Right now, there are people who have testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee about what they have seen transpire with the disciplinary committee and the judicial ethics committee, and nothing was done about it. Okay, if we the people got together and signed a petition and we were strong in numbers, we could change that. We could address these
I think one of the ways I just heard about recently that might work, and I heard that the state constitution is not up for, it's coming up in 2016 in our state in New York, that we have an opportunity to modify and change the constitution by it coming up for a vote on changing it. So you can establish a vote and change the New York State Constitution. It only happens once every 4 or 8 years, I forget what it is. It's coming up. Might that be a way for us to do it, do you know? Have you heard about this?
I'd like to hear more about it. It's something that Divorce Corp, I'm sure, would probably want to get behind. But I have a list of proposals on how we could make changes now and long-term changes. We should have cameras in the courtroom.
Oh, thank you.
We need transparency.
We would always say that, yes.
We should know what a judge makes, not only when he comes in to the courthouse, but throughout his career, as he's sitting as a judge, and when he leaves. Has he amassed wealth? How much wealth? In what way? They should be very transparent, the judges. We need to know. We
found out some of those judges have more wealth than their salaries would provide.
Well, we don't know, right? Nothing's transparent in that way. Just telling them to disclose what they have when they start out doesn't help us. No. We need to know along the way. Also,
that's very important.
Another thing that's important is the disciplinary process. We need to know what the complaints that were made against judges, how they were handled, because most likely nothing's been done with most of the complaints. And what's the worst that can happen if a judge abuses his power and ruins so many lives? What's the worst that can happen?
Right.
He can
relocate to another
if the investigation gets hot and heavy,
yeah,
which is rare and probably because there's public scrutiny, he can retire and make a fortune in private practice as a former judge. So meanwhile, there's thousands of victims' lives.
Become an arbitrator, whatever else you need.
And there's thousands of victims' lives destroyed by that one judge.
Right, isn't that sad? And that's why you do what you do.
It's worse than sad.
Yeah.
It's beyond sad.
Well, I'm glad that you had a chance to step out and say these things, because we appreciate it very much. You're saying some of the action needed in the remaining 8 or 10 minutes that we have left. Establish an what was that word? Apolitical. I'm sorry, how did I blow that? An apolitical applying oversight. Create a clear decentralization of power and funding.
Well, that's right. We need a system. I think we should have even...
how about ensure the judges are well versed in the laws they preside over?
Well,
wow, wouldn't that be
that's
nice?
Choosing judges on merit, ensuring that when they're presiding over a family law action, they know the laws. They're not a personal injury judge who's placed into the family law division. You know, that they actually know the laws that they're deciding, that they're chosen on merit, and that there's oversight. And you know what? Oversight can't be after the case is over, you can make a complaint that goes nowhere.
Right.
Oversight means, oversight means, you know, there's a concept called judicial independence. They say, we can't get involved. Judge has judicial independence. But judicial independence does not mean that a judge is free from oversight and accountability. It means that when a judge is acting lawfully, they should be able to decide their case strictly on the law and the facts. But if a judge is not acting lawfully or is abusing his power, we need right then and there to have someone come in so that we can have access to a fair court. Otherwise, our entire litigation gets, you know, diverted.
Yeah, we don't spend enough time thinking about what happens at the moment. We often say that, well, what happened on what day, and then, oh, that happened that day? Well, it's too late now. Why is it too late? This fact didn't get to the table. Whatever the case may be, it never gets addressed at the moment. So that point is extremely important. I think it's a very valuable tool.
Why did the cases go on so long? Because what happens is you come into the system, and if the judge is acting wrong or an attorney is acting wrong, you wind up fighting for that, and your whole case is derailed.
Sure.
Right.
You also say that this database must be established to track patterns.
Yes, I actually recommended to the legislator that we should have a database. What it means is when there's a particular lawyer and there's a particular judge and there's particular professionals appointed, we should track this. We should see, are these particular lawyers winning most of their cases? Are these particular professionals recommending custody more often than others?
Right. Are they
judges,
partial, offering custody on one side or the other?
You would see an entire, I saw the pattern without having it in writing.
Sure.
So we would definitely have a pattern.
Cool, very cool. The video courtroom's also available recordings, you say?
That's right. We should have videos of, everything should be recorded in a courthouse. Because these judges are there for us. We're not there for them. They're there to serve us and to give us fair access to the courthouse. That's the whole mission of the court system. So we should be able to have recordings and accessible recordings so that if we say that a judge is acting and engaging in misconduct, we should be able to pull those recordings, get oversight of the way that judge is acting or the other attorney, and to get that dress so we can have fair access to the courthouse.
Right.
That's what we're there for.
Yeah, you bet.
Right.
What actions have been taken against you so far, stating some of these things? Has anything happened?
Many things have happened to me, many things. You know, when you fight the system, when you stand up, look, as an attorney who devoted her life to justice, because we all grew up believing, no one, my mama never told me, you know, there'd be courts like this, because we all grew up believing that there's a just court system. So I thought, as an attorney, as long as I always stated the facts correctly and I never did anything wrong, you know, they couldn't sanction me. So I recused judges based on the facts and the law. I was never sanctioned for any of that, never said that anything I did was frivolous,
never reprimanded or
nothing. But I didn't know what I was soon to find out after about 20 years of practice, that they don't have to do anything to you on the spot. There's a system behind the system that you can be targeted through court offices, and that could impact your entire life, your financial well-being, because they can use court offices with political people placed at the helm to target attorneys. And you know, and I've overcome a lot on my own, but it's been a very hard road doing the right thing.
Thank you very much, Susan. I appreciate that. We're done with the show. It went very fast. And this is definitely a good book. You should see Unchecked Power Guide, and you're going to see that on the film in just a moment. Americans are fast becoming victims of brain salad surgery. Political corruption, social perceptions, and media-driven narratives are rapidly carrying away our republic, our very understanding of what America is. Our nation, our government is shaken, disrupted, and confused by a new social order where losing our common sense is making us become vulnerable to strikes of deceit from within, like in your case, or without. Our aim at FIT TV is to supercharge Americans with education. We'll be back again next week to do the same thing. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Chris DiMaggio.
Properly inflating my tires burns less fuel and saves me money on gas. Yeah, I'm saving Mother Nature from pollution, but more importantly, she saved me $11. Ow!
Environmental defense. Get green.
By keeping my car regularly tuned, I save money on gas and repairs. That also means cleaner air. You know, feels good to help save the cash, planet.
Environmental defense. Get green. For more tips, go to getgreen.com.
Introducing the all-new Enclave. It's a minivan to the max, with features like remote control sliding rear doors, 150 cable channels, a full sky view roof, temperature-controlled cup holders, and the 6-point navigation system. It's the minivan for families on the go.
Sweetheart, smoke outside now. You promise.
Okay, hon.
Sweetheart, smoke outside now. You promise.
What kind of man are you? I'm a father. Look here, my father was a father, and he smoked his brains out in the house.
Watch as he blows those smoke rings on my little red face.
You probably have asthma.
Asthma? Schmasma. I'm telling you, nothing's gonna happen to your kids.
I swear.
Don't swear when you're lying. You know very well that thousands of kids get bronchitis, ear infections, and even pneumonia from their parents' cigarette smoke. And didn't you promise your little angels you'd smoke outside?
Hey, Daddy.
Those little devils are just so sweet.
Do the right thing.
Please, smoke outside.
Until you can stop, go out for your kids.
Take the pledge. Call 1-800-513-1157.